Good morning, I'm Leslie Stewart and you're watching TERRA at Home, and well, Robbie Burns Day is just a few days away. So we thought we'd make the show a little bit of a Scottish fair throughout the entire theme of the show today. And so it brings us to the Wandering Scot in Burlington, and we're here with Caroline Kohler.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on the show with us today and allowing us into your cute little British shop here. First of all, let's talk a little bit about your shop in general.
Okay, well, we sell everything from the British Isles, basically, from Scotland, England, Ireland and Wales. We get regular deliveries of fresh, authentic baked products, as well as all of the non-perishable products that get shipped in.
Yeah, so anything like from canned goods to a lot of the packaged, from shortbreads to crackers to everything that people are looking for that don't have access to on a regular basis in a regular grocery store over here.
Yes.
Makes them feel kind of at home again.
It does, it does. We have lots of regular customers that come in just to chat with us, and it gives us that little piece of home as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, absolutely. And you connect with the community, the British community in general. All right, so talking about Robbie Burns, obviously a national Scottish poet, and every day on the January 25th of every year, all the Scots come together and they celebrate this special day because he's a big deal. He was a huge deal. So let's talk a little bit about the Robbie Burns supper and what happens at a supper.
Okay, well, we always celebrate on the 25th because that's Robbie Burns' birthday. So and they celebrate in memory of Robbie Burns or Robert Burns. And we always have the haggis because that was a traditional meal of the time back in the 18th century when he was around.
There was a lot of poverty back then.
There was a lot of poverty back then, and the haggis really consists of all the pieces of the excuse me, all the pieces of the animal that they wouldn't use that they would give to the peasants. Right. So the heart and the lungs and the liver, and they would take the sheep's stomach and they would put it in there and they would steam it and cook it for about 3 hours. That's how it was traditionally made.
And that's what scares, I think, a lot of people. And the first time people know that I'm of Scottish descent, people will say, well, have you had haggis? What is it and what's in it? So it scares people a little bit sometimes.
Well, it really tastes like a spicy sausage.
Right.
That's really what it tastes like. It's the organs of the animals, and they mix it with oatmeal and spices and different things. And you can get different varieties of it now, and it's just it's not obviously in the
stomach anymore. And you were saying it's not even really most of the organ meats anymore.
They still have some organ meats in it, but most of it's beef. So it really just is like a beef sausage
for some people.
Yeah.
So at this point now, you actually sell haggis in your store.
Yes, we do.
And I noticed when I was over in Scotland, you can buy haggis almost like a little miniature log of it, and they throw it in the deep fryer, and you get it with some chips, and you can do it that way.
And you can have it battered,
or just to make it extra good for you. But getting back to Robbie Burns' supper, they actually base pretty much the whole supper around this. So there's a big ceremony. It's piped in by a piper in full dress.
It is. It's piped in by a piper in full dress, and then the piper would usually address the haggis. And the address of the haggis came about when Robert Burns was having dinner with one of his friends up in Edinburgh, and he was asked to say grace. And instead of saying grace, he stood up and made this poem up on the spot, and it's now become the address of the haggis.
And it's actually really interesting to watch it. The person who's doing it is often very theatrical, and he's got the big big knife out the skin do, and he's just going crazy. And then they eventually get to the point where they
actually stab the wee beastie.
A wee beastie, and make quite a display of it.
Yes.
And people love it. I mean, because it's actually quite a long poem. Most people don't understand what he's saying, right?
No.
But it's full of interesting.
You can get the English version of it.
Versus the Gaelic version of it. So it is kind of fun. So along with, of course, the haggis, once they do this address, then it is served up to all of the guests. And what else do you have on your plate usually?
Well, this is the haggis once that comes out the casings. It's nice and loose, and you can see all the oatmeal and everything through it.
Right.
And then you would have tatties, or mashed potatoes, and neeps, or mashed up turnip.
Right. And that's always a nice combination.
And that would be it.
Yeah.
And then you would have your, for dessert, you would have your oatcakes and cheese with some nice shortbread, along with a wee dram. So a little nip of Scotch.
Yeah, oh, that's perfect. And so actually, we do have these glasses over here.
Yes.
You sell these glasses in your store,
Yes.
and actually this one's really, really cute. I just wanted to look at this because it's this, you tell me a little bit about this because it actually has the Robert Burns, his picture.
This company is from Ayrshire and they're called Burns Crystal, and because Robert Burns was born in Ayrshire, and so this is Burns Crystal and this is Robert Burns on it, and it comes as this particular one comes as a set of 6. So one of them would have Burns on it, and the other 5 have part of Auld Lang Syne on it, which is a poem that Robert Burns wrote.
Right, which we often are familiar
Sing.
with on New Year's.
New
or
Year's
Hogmanay,
Eve.
right?
Yeah, Hogmanay, yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of neat. This is a perfect type of
That's
Scotch,
a whiskey glass.
A whiskey glass. Yeah. So this is kind of. We're actually going to be heading to the LCBO after this segment to talk a little bit about whiskey and sort of some of the ways to drink it. But again, very traditional to have this as part of the supper, and that's kind of I kind of like this whole idea.
Yeah,
it is really fun. Now, do you celebrate? Are you part of the Robbie being of Scottish descent and coming here to Canada? Do you still celebrate?
We celebrate it a little bit. We always have haggis at home on the 25th and the neeps and the tatties and stuff like that. But we don't go out to any big Burns suppers.
Yes. Okay, because there are a lot of Burns suppers around. And I mean, given that we're only just a few days away, but mostly they're usually sold out at this point, but there are lots of suppers around. You can look at, whether it's sometimes the Legions have it, churches, different organizations. I know the Scottish Rite in Hamilton. I've been to one there myself. There are lots of opportunities to go, even if you're not Scottish, to go and be part of something like this.
We have a lot of Canadian people coming into our store at that time of the year just saying, hey, do you have haggis? How do you cook it? So we actually have cooking instructions that we can give to the customers. Our haggis is fully cooked, can just be microwaved, but we do have the cooking instructions to do it traditionally.
Wow, and that's generally, you should say, you steam it.
Yes,
normally.
you'd steam it. You'd put it in an oven-safe dish, and you would make sure that the water does not. So you'd make a little tinfoil boat, as my friend Jack would tell me.
Sitting in the water.
It's not sitting in the water, and then it just steams in the oven for about an hour, just to cook, and it keeps it nice and moist.
Coming and doing that and trying haggis for the first time. I think everybody should have an opportunity to do that. So again, your store is located here just on New Street, just east of Walker's Line in Burlington, and it's right in the little strip plaza here. And again, a great opportunity to come in, talk to you, and you can kind of guide people through. Plus, you of course have all the baked goods, all the pies, and wonderful treats.
Now we also have another store in Guelph.
That's right,
which is at 35 Harvard Road.
Oh, perfect. So if anyone watching can go to that location as well. And how do you do it? Because you got a lot of stuff to man here.
Yes, it's tough.
Keeps you hopping.
It keeps me busy. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you can also go onto their website, thewanderingscot.ca. Gives you all the information, and again, you can come by and visit them here. Next up, as we mentioned, we're going to the LCBO at the Millcroft Plaza in Burlington, and we're talking scotches. So we're going to carry this right through, and then Chef Rachel is going to be making a steak pie at the end of this episode. It's everything Scottish. Thank you so much to my Scottish friend Caroline here at the Wandering Scot. We'll be back with more TERRA at Home.
Thank you.
Come and explore the new TERRA, where color lives.
AM 900 CHML is giving you more news when you want it most. Non-stop news weekday mornings 5 till 9, weekday afternoons 3 to 6, with weather and traffic on the 9s. Hear about it first from AM 900 CHML, Hamilton's news talk leader.
Welcome back to TERRA at Home, and keeping with the theme, as promised, Robbie Burns Day, just a few days away. We're back with Jillian Love here at the LCBO at the Millcroft Plaza, and we're going to talk about scotches today, of course.
Of course, it's very appropriate for
Yes,
Robert
considering
Burns.
as part of the Robbie Burns supper, they do have their scotch, so.
They do.
Right, and you're of Scottish descent as well, you were born there.
Yes,
so
I was
have
there.
you been to a Robbie Burns supper?
Yes, I have,
yes.
many times, many
I
times.
figured.
I was born there, lived there till I was 8, so I do have a lot of Scottish heritage.
A good connection, and you know that when you're over over there, you can actually smell it in the air.
You
can't
can,
you?
you can, because of the sea, because of the water. And Scotch, it's all about the water, Leslie. It's all about the water and the land, and especially in a place called Isla, which is some whiskeys right here at the front of the table, right in the center. Isla is a peat bog, so you get lots of that smoky, high iodine, big pungent aromas that come from the Isla whiskeys. So very different flavor profiles, and it's almost like picking a perfume. They're all good, but they're all very, very different.
And it is amazing because I've had an opportunity to taste here and there. It really is true. I never realized, and until you have the opportunity to do that, that it's unbelievable, the flavor profiles.
Oh, it's totally different. And I mean, you can have, if somebody's not a Scotch drinker, they can certainly get into one of the lighter whiskeys.
Sure.
If you're a very, big connoisseur of Scotch, you can enjoy the big, heavy malted.
And that's the thing. A
whiskeys.
lot of people have various bottles at home. People who do enjoy a glass here or there, can just kind of dip into a little bit here and there. And that's the great part about it. You can have just a little bit, and you're okay.
Definitely,
right?
A little tiny bit, and it's great to taste. Like you said, Leslie, the terroir of Scotland really you're really tasting Scotland in these glasses.
Yeah, which is really cool. Okay, so why don't we'll start off with this side here, and this again, you're saying maybe more of a little bit of a lighter one?
Yeah, these are the ones on the end here are the lowland whiskeys. We have Auchentoshan Distillery, and they're lowland whiskeys, which mean they tend to be a little bit lighter. They're finished in some Oloroso casks. This one, the Auchentoshan Distillery, the triple wood, the 3 wood, has been finished in 3 different casks, so it gives a little bit more sweetness. But lowland whiskeys tend to be a little more lighter in flavor profile, so almost a feminine style of whiskey.
Oh, I see. Okay.
If you're just a beginner and you want to enjoy
maybe
that
it's a good
kind
starting point for you.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Moving on, like I said before, the Isla whiskeys, very smoky, very high iodine, very pungent. Lafroig does an 18-year-old, a 10-year-old. Lagavulin is probably the most smokiest because they smoke the grain, Leslie. The peat smokes the grain, and it's almost like a campfire. So if you're not sure about whiskeys and you're buying a whiskey for someone, just be careful with Isla whiskeys because they are very pungent and really medicinal.
They can be, and again, even if you are a Scotch drinker, some of them can be over the top for you, right?
Yes, very medicinal, like smoky, not
Heavy.
a sweetness. They've got a heavier, smokier, very big burn going down. So.
Burn, that's a very common theme a lot of times when people
Robert
first try.
Burns.
Yeah, exactly, with Robert Burns. So moving on to a more of a, this is a Highland whiskey as well?
Yes, the 4 whiskeys at the front there, the Macallan Distillery, the Highland Park Distillery from Orkney, way at the top of the Scottish Highlands, Viking country up there.
Yes.
Very
That's all the red hair came from.
Sweeter whiskeys, more fruity whiskeys, a little bit more raisin and mincemeat pie almost aromas that come from it. The Macallan's very, very creamy, a little bit more marzipan, softer style. So yeah, it's very different from the big smoky iodine.
So you're
Isla.
actually really, you're coming into the LCBO, really is best if you've never purchased a Scotch before, whether it's for a gift or for yourself, best to be asking some questions, right? And that's kind of the good thing about having you guys around. Because you could, it's just an open field.
They're so different in style.
And at price points as well, right?
Right.
You can go from pretty reasonable to crazy.
To $300 and up.
Yeah, sure.
You can go from $40 to $300. Yeah.
Just like that. Okay, all right, moving on.
Moving on, the Glenrothes is a Speyside whiskey, still in the Highlands. It's distilled in sherry Jerez oak, so very soft and sweet flavor, very smooth, and that's the key. As the older the whiskeys, the more aged the whiskeys, the smoother they are and the more flavor they have.
Okay.
Beside it is the famous Grouse, which is a blended whiskey. There is a difference between single malt and blended. Single malt comes from a single distillery using only barley, whereas blended whiskeys can come from 2 or more distilleries. And they don't always have to use just barley. They can use other grains as well.
Okay. Okay, and of course we've been talking about Robbie Burns, and well, here's his own ode to him.
The whole thing with Robbie Burns, this is an Arran whiskey from the Isle of Arran. Robert Burns was actually, besides one of the greatest poets of all time, he was an exciseman, which was a government inspector for illegal distilleries. So he actually went and stopped the illegal production of whiskeys in those distilleries, especially on the Isle of Arran. So now there's only one legal distillery, and it's after his name. So
isn't that funny? I wonder what he would think about that.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. So I guess we should talk a little bit about also in whiskeys. I mean, you can see how this one is a lot. This one's a lot lighter. This particular color.
Some are very heavy and dark in color, and some are light. And that's the casks. That's definitely the casks. The hogshead casks there's Spanish oak, sweet Spanish oak, Oloroso casks. There's bourbon casks, and we're finding more and more trends now to the whiskeys aging in very, very different casks, like rum casks.
Well, it's been around for so many years. They're just experimenting with everything at this point, right?
Yes,
for
really,
so long.
And when you think about it, an 18-year-old whiskey, there's only a certain amount of casks back in 1992 or 91 to produce an 18-year-old whiskey. So.
Now, one thing I think a lot of people, again, if you've never had it before, they've just had a straight little sip and they're like overwhelmed by it. But people have different techniques of how they do drink it, right? Some people add just a little bit of water.
Yes, if you add too much ice, it takes the flavor profile away because it chills it down too much.
Okay.
So by adding a little bit of water, you can control your own flavor of the whiskey.
And that doesn't necessarily ruin the profile. Sometimes I've heard that it almost opens up the flavors.
Better for nosing because you get more of the flavor profile when you add a little bit of water because it opens up the spirit.
Wow. That's it's pretty intense. So again, lots of questions to be had for people trying. And again, to celebrate Robbie Burns Day, they always have a wee dram here or there, or more.
Yes.
So that is definitely something that's part of the celebration. So we're going to continue on, as of course Chef Rachel is going to be coming on the show, and she's going to be making us a nice steak pie back at the TERRA kitchen. But again, this is part of the day, and to come in, find out, get yourself some good information from the LCBO. Again, we're at the Millcroft location, and the website is lcbo.com as well, right?
Yes.
So you can kind of do a little bit of pre-shopping online as well and look at some of the scotches?
And actually, we just have a nice selection of Scotch whiskies out right now for Robbie Burns Day, so it's a perfect time to come in.
They're on it. They know what they're doing here. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on TERRA at Home, and we have more to come in just a little bit.
Come and explore the new TERRA, where color lives.
AM 900 CHML is giving you more news when you want it most. Non-stop news weekday mornings 5 till 9, weekday afternoons 3 to 6, with weather and traffic on the 9s. Hear about it first from AM 900 CHML, Hamilton's news talk leader.
Welcome back to TERRA at Home, and to continue on with our Robbie Burns supper tradition that we're here having on the show today. We are back with Chef Rachel, and we're at the TERRA Kitchens, and we decided to do, of course, you're of Scottish descent as well,
I am, yes.
So it works out perfectly with our theme.
Yeah.
we're doing a steak pie today.
Yes.
How fun.
We are.
Good
Great.
idea. Now, this is a family recipe of yours.
It is. Yep. My grandparents used to make it all the time, and then my mom makes it at home now, and she's passed it on to me.
Nice.
So it's a very simple steak pie recipe.
But that's what I like about it. I think people get a little bit scared sometimes when they know it's a pie. People worry about the word pie because everyone gets freaked out about the crust, which is what we'll get to the pastry in a bit.
Right.
Let's talk about the inside.
Yes. Okay, so we have some stewing beef here. You can buy it already cubed. I diced it up a little more, so it's a bit smaller, bite-sized pieces. We've got some chopped garlic, so about 2 or 3 cloves or so. I like garlic, so I usually
It's good for you, and
put a lot
especially this time of year. They tell you to eat lots and lots of garlic, right? So you might as well just put it in there.
Yes. So lots of garlic, a little bit of oil on medium-high heat, and we'll add in some onions at this time too. So just some sweet onions, probably about half an onion. So add that in too. And then we can turn the heat down a bit because we don't want it to burn. Maybe medium-low heat.
Okay.
And we'll just saute that for, a minute or two. Just until the onion's translucent and the aromas start to come out.
Now we were talking about how you can add, there are so many variations of the steak pie. I mean, you go to your local pub, or, I mean, you can everything from steak and kidney, steak and mushroom,
Yes.
Different types of meat combinations. You're saying sausage? as well. You know, there's lots of options.
Right.
And herb options you can throw in more to give it more flavor.
Of course, herbs are always always a great thing to add to any dish, I think.
But this one is pretty basic. It's
Yeah,
pretty
so this one's simple. Just the onions and the stewing beef. So no mushrooms, but I think that would be a good addition.
That's a good one.
Okay, so we'll add in the beef now, and we just want to brown it, basically on all sides. Now, obviously, this is going to be cooking for about an hour or so.
Yeah, so we don't have time to cook it forever and ever. But you want to do like a slow cook, right? So you're just, you know, you don't want to cook that too hard, too fast, too quickly, so that the beef doesn't get tough, right? It's like a slow cook.
Exactly. So once you brown the meat kind of on all sides, might work better if you had a little bit of a wider pot. It would work faster.
Sure.
But this is okay. So you brown it on all sides, and then we have some beef stock that we're going to add in there. Salt and pepper, a little bit of Worcestershire for some flavor. Any herbs that you want to add, you would add at that time.
Okay. And you're mentioning as well, you could add some red wine to this, and that would richen the flavor as well.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's good.
Of course.
Worcester always does that, though.
If you wanted to add the wine, I would add it right when you're done the browning. Kind of do a deglaze.
Sure.
So while it's still on the medium-high heat, you get that sizzle, and the wine. It allows the alcohol to kind of cook off a bit.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, great. We'll add the Worcestershire at this time. So just a couple of dashes. I don't know. I like it, so I go a little heavy.
Well, it really changes the flavor profile, right? It just gives it that nice.
A bit of salt and pepper. Okay, great. Now we can add the stock.
Okay.
And then we'll just put this off to the side and we'll let it simmer. Like I said, about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending.
So low heat, cover. You
I would
cover
leave
it.
it-
You leave it open.
you definitely
you want to
could.
kind of keep stirring it. Keep on it.
every once in a while.
Okay.
You could cover it if you want. I don't.
Okay.
I don't, but okay. We just keep it like that, simmer it, test it after an hour or so and see. You just want the meat to be nice and tender.
Now, have you ever worked with organ meats, adding organ meats? Because we were earlier on in the show, we were at the Wandering Scot making the whole process of haggis, right? Have you had haggis?
I have not.
No, so that's
I have not
interesting.
had
That's
haggis
interesting
yet.
being Scottish that you haven't, because. But would you try it?
I think I would try it. Yeah, it's actually
It's always
not
the test.
Yeah, I'm sure my grandparents have had it. Not something that I was brought up eating. I'm
Right.
sure my mom has had it as well, but
Yeah.
no, not something that she ever made for us. So I have yet to try that.
We'll have to get you to try it
Okay.
sometime then, because it is. They were saying before that in the past it used to be all the heart and the lungs and everything,
Yep.
and now they've generally just used beef in it,
Right.
beef and sausage or whatever. So
Right.
it's not quite as daring for some people.
Right.
But again, it's always interesting working with organ meat. That's another whole concept of throwing that in that pot too, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. We'll have to give that a try sometime because I'm really open to.
I'm trying to get everyone I
anything.
can to eat haggis around
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
That's okay.
We'll work
It's
on
good.
our
Yeah,
camera
you have
guys
to be
too.
adventurous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so once this is cooked down, and you're good to go, you've added your salt and pepper to it.
Yep. All the
And,
spices that
so
you
that's
can
all
add.
good to go.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
So we let this, like I said, cook for a while. At the end of the cooking process, when it's all cooked, I should say, you might want to adjust the consistency of the sauce. So with
Okay.
that, all I do is I make a little bit of a slurry. I call it a cornstarch
Yes.
slurry. So equal parts cornstarch to cold water, and just add that in. You want to mix it with the water well first, so it doesn't clump.
Right.
And that'll just help to thicken up, the sauce.
And that's the great part about it. You can just keep adding little bits at a time, thicken it up, because you don't want to be pouring that into your
right.
puff pastry
You want it
crust
to be
all
more like
wet.
a gravy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
good.
a thick gravy.
All right.
So we do have a pot working here, and that's what we're going to use to fill our
Okay.
pie when we're ready.
Okay.
Let's just move that to the side. So our crust for this recipe is just puff pastry.
Okay, and that's
So-
easy enough, because the great part about that is that you can just buy it
Exactly.
and roll it out, and it's done.
yes.
Right?
That's what I like about
So that's
it.
good.
Yeah.
So you've already done that. You've rolled it out. Of course, flouring is always good.
Yes.
Dusting it off.
Yep. So, when you buy your puff pastry, it usually comes in two blocks. So, you want two pieces, unless you want to eat an open pie. But in this case, we're going to put one on top. We'll cut a hole in the middle so the steam can come out.
Okay.
But yeah, I just put a couple marks with a fork inside there, just to allow the steam to come through, right?
Okay.
So it doesn't really puff up too much, because it is puff pastry. So it gets pretty big. And then, so we'll switch this over here.
and the magic of television.
Right. So
It's cooked.
We've been cooking this for about an hour and a half. I did thicken it slightly, so as you can see, it's starting to break up. It's nice and tender, and it's not really too runny.
Right.
Right.
So you're not going to pre-cook the crust. You're going to leave it the way it is, and then
good.
you add that to it, and then cook it all together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Some people always wonder about that one. So.
Right. So we'll just fill it up. So it's really easy. And then I have the oven set to about 400. When working with puff pastry, I always cook at 400.
Okay.
Though I know different recipes will vary. It might be 375 or 350. But for the most part, you want a high temperature for the puff pastry.
Because you want it nice and brown too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll take about 25 minutes or so.
All right.
We'll brush it with egg wash too, and that'll help give it a nice color.
So you're only putting in about halfway, basically, the filling.
I'm using about 1.5 pounds of the stewing beef here. So if you wanted to fill it more, you could. It'll be okay if you were to fill this up more.
Smells good. Ooh.
Great. And then so we're ready to put this on top.
Okay.
And then you can, work the edges however you want. Cut around it, make a fancy design.
That's the thing, yeah. Some people make it all fancy on top or whatever, but you have to definitely make sure you make a couple little incisions on top, right, for the for the steam, and
Right.
so you don't have a massive explosion in your oven.
Exactly. So it's like that with any pie. We usually just make a hole in the middle, basically. Yeah. So.
Okay. So basically, at this point, you just do a little egg wash, and in the oven it goes for how long? Did you put it in for again?
25 minutes.
25 minutes.
400 degrees.
Perfect. Now that's what we're gonna do. And we'll come back from the break, and it'll be all done. It'll be magically done, and we'll just wrap it all up. And looking forward to it. We'll be back at TERRA at Home in just a minute.
Come and explore the new TERRA, where color lives.
Welcome back to TERRA at Home, and we're wrapping up our Robbie Burns celebration here, just a few days before the big official celebration.
Yes.
And Chef Rachel helped us create a steak pie today. And I was actually surprised. The recipe is really easy to make, which is really great. I think people have a bit of a fear with the whole pie situation, but puff pastry, buy it, and then you can make all the ingredients, and look at how beautiful it is.
Thank you.
I know you question whether it looks beautiful, but you know what? That's how puff pastry should look, right? It should just be all just kind of yummy looking and brown on top, and it's good to go. All right, so at this point now, do you add gravy on top of yours, or do you anything like that, or you keep it the way it is?
I just keep it the way it is.
Okay.
Normally, do you add gravy?
Some people do. I don't know.
No.
But I know some people do. Some people add peas. I know some people add the peas right on top.
Yeah, peas are big in my family.
Yes.
Peas and mashed potatoes is usually what we serve with our steak pie.
Yeah, it works. Now, some people make individual ones. You've made it in big pie form. So how would you serve it? Just a nice little pie piece? Why don't you go and show us how you would do it?
Let's cut it so right from the middle, just like a slice of pie.
And again, if you've made it the way you made it, it's not supposed to all just be perfect, right? It's supposed to just
it's a very rustic kind of dish. So let's see if I can get this in there.
That's the trick, isn't it? So again, just a reminder that you can catch all of Rachel's recipes on our website, and of course all of our past episodes, and all of your recipes that you've made, all these different shows that we've had at terragreenhouses.com, and of course our show airs every Saturday morning at 5. Where you can watch the repeat. And again, of course, everything comes out of it, but it's okay because that's the element of it. And I can't wait to eat this. This looks absolutely amazing. And again, you can add mushrooms, you can add kidneys,
some liver, maybe.
Are you going to do a little Robbie Burns celebration this year?
I think so.
We'll have to dig up something. We'll see if we can get into any place. Could almost be booked up everywhere. But have yourself a great Robbie Burns celebration. Get yourself a wee dram, and cheers to you. We'll have more TERRA at Home. We'll see you again next Saturday.